And no citizens' comments that I saw. All right. Looking for approval of minutes from March 13th's meeting.
I'll make a motion.
I second. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
We're killing this.
This goes to Steve. Student teacher compensation. Thank you.
It's the best thing I've ever seen, Steve.
Steve, I'm going to give you this microphone so people at home can hear.
All right, we're just taking a look at exploring the idea of compensation for student teachers, which is not something that we currently do. It's not a common practice, and taking a look at possibly increasing the rates that we pay for our interns. As we know, enrollment in educator programs has fallen, and those that leave the profession, those numbers have increased as well. And we do maintain an excellent relationship with several different institutes of higher education, including UW-Whitewater and Carroll. And so we regularly host student teachers, and last year we brought on 2 of those student teachers to join us as regular full-time staff. What we've given some thought to and believe is worth exploring is creating a pipeline from the student teaching / intern experience to becoming a certified teacher. And so we're taking a look at what that might look like. And so currently interns are paid over the course of their semester of work $4,500, and $500 is set aside for their professional development. And so just prior to spring break, I did reach out to my peers in other districts just to get a sense of what their current practices are. What you'll see is that of the respondents, no one is paying in the manner that I'm going to suggest here. Letters of intent have been provided, and sometimes there's some consideration if somebody already has a license and is a teacher of record. But what we're looking to do, again, is just to take a look at the folks that come on board that for our student teachers and interns, for those that meet a specific and forecasted staffing need that might be hard to fill, to take a look at those folks individually and offer the possibility of up to $2,000, and again, we could choose any dollar amount, but $2,000 for those student teachers. And then just to make sure that the differential in pay remains the same, we would look at up to $6,500 for our interns. And so if that was to be something that the finance and facilities would be interested, the board was interested in, we would have certainly get the word out in terms of this new offering and just make sure that our partners in higher education are aware. But this is presented as an idea to potentially, again, create that pipeline from being a student teacher or an intern to becoming a regularly full and ongoing teacher, again, based on forecasted and specific needs. So this wouldn't be every single time, but it would be a consideration that we would have at our in our toolbox.
Is an intern a graduated student with a license that isn't full-time?
An intern is a pre-service educator who has gotten a license, an intern license through DPI, and they're able to teach half-time, with the idea being that half-time they're also in a position to observe.
Okay.
And so they are licensed, but within an intern license structure.
So that's, when I was teaching, that was different. I was able to intern for, I think I did 1 semester at Union Grove, but I think I had attained my license at that time, but I was just a part-time teacher.
Got it.
So, but that was pre-2010, pre a lot of things changing.
Sure.
So
I think that one of the things that if you were to talk to a number of folks and ask them what an intern is,
different.
you might get different answers.
Okay.
But the state of Wisconsin has a specific program to support interns that we work through. And so this proposal is based on some of the structures that exist currently within the Wisconsin intern program. With that being said, that's where that $4,500 comes from. That's from the state program. And to mirror that, to offer student teachers that we feel would fill a forecasted need. That's where we're getting those differentials. So just for consideration, a possible tool for recruiting and getting folks excited about Mukwonago.
How many interns do we currently have?
This year, one.
Okay.
So again, just making it a little bit more lucrative.
How many can we use?
We could potentially, as we go through the hiring season, and again, it's a little late for this season because interns are going to be determined for next fall. But what this proposal would allow for us to do is to take a look at in fall, what sorts of things would we possibly be looking for? Again, getting into that forecasting perspective. And again, it would not be mandatory. It would be just a consideration that if we do know something that we might need to fill, this would give us an option to add some funds to it.
So you just need us to move this forward to the full board for consideration, everybody? can
For
have it?
consideration, yep.
And we can have it, we can talk about it at the next full board meeting, or?
Of course.
I'll make a motion to move it forward to the full board.
Thank you.
I'll second. Other question is, do we have full-time staff that can take on more, like they can pass up their prep period in order to cover extra classes?
I don't believe that we're at capacity in terms of total interns that we could take. Certainly, we don't force interns or student teachers on a teacher if they are not feeling comfortable taking on that opportunity. So again, that's purely a voluntary thing. As those invitations to host a student teacher come through, they typically will come through me, and then I'll share them with the building principals that are related to that request.
Yeah.
But at that point, it's always structured as a request. So
are the interns, would an intern hiring cover, I just want to understand what they're covering. Are they covering like 2 periods of a math class that we just don't have a teacher to cover because we have like overflow math?
got
And
it.
then they're being mentored by a teacher? Is that how that works?
Basically how it works, and the state of Wisconsin is really specific on this, they want to make sure that an intern coming into a classroom is coming into a classroom that a teacher currently teaches, that it's their classroom, that we're not using them to cover extra sections. It has to be, they have to come into a role that was taught by a teacher, but also that next year would be taught by a teacher and not just some nebulous 2 sections of overage. We can't do that. It has to be linked to an actual teaching assignment.
Okay, so they're not filling in. I understand the role or the point of student teachers. I'm struggling to understand the point of what interns are now versus what I did. I was just as a teacher, just a part-time teacher.
Got it.
I used the word intern. So, but
You-
that's not. I didn't have somebody also in the classroom. So that sounds like doubling up. Almost.
This is basically how I would describe it is the difference between student teaching, which is when you're with a teacher all the time, they're supporting you, is that the intern is able to operate as the teacher for half of the time, formally, and they're licensed to be able to do that.
So Stephen, isn't it true though that when you're getting an intern, they're coming with a high recommendation from
Yes.
their college?
Yes, they're coming with an
The
endorsement.
thought is that when you offer them money and they could student intern, they could student teach elsewhere, we would be getting the best recommendations to come here first, because they'll take they could go to whatever school district for free or come here for the stipend, and then once you get them in the door, don't let them leave.
That's exactly correct.
So this is totally separate. They've already completed their student teaching. They just haven't found a job yet.
This actually, the internship operates parallel to student teaching.
Everybody has to complete student teaching and an internship.
No, it can be one or the other,
Okay.
and they both lead to licensure. But just as Tom is saying, an internship is paid. That's traditionally
Like
how an
student
intern.
teaching but paid. It just carries a different label of intern, and then you can have that opportunity to lead a classroom
Half of the time. Yep.
up to, yeah.
So they don't also have to go through student teaching.
No.
Same thing.
Oh. Why doesn't everybody do that?
No one's willing to pay.
Oh, okay.
There is a pay component to it. Yeah.
That's all you have to say.
When you say half the time, is that half the day or half the year?
Half of the teaching load, and that would be for a semester.
Okay. So they could teach on their own for weeks on end?
50% of the time.
But a student teacher couldn't.
No, they're supposed to be under the direct observation of a certified teacher, with the idea being that, again, interns do get a license through the state to be an intern. They are recognized as a candidate with some really great potential, such that we're going to give them 50% of the time
They
with
could work
students
as a
independently.
substitute teacher.
Hey, that worked.
Okay. I just had to get that clarification. Very, from when I did it, it was very different, so
Sure.
that's, makes much more sense now. So it sounds like we're just paying 2 teachers then to do the same, to do 1 class, which is okay, but.
It's an investment in the future.
Yes, I like it. Okay, moving on.
Nope.
You
Approved?
guys got to vote on that.
Okay, let's vote on it.
All-
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Hold on, my computer fell asleep.
All right, the next thing that we had,
It's a really good memo.
the next thing that we had then on the agenda was the district official bank depository newspaper. Each year, we have to declare our official newspaper, and that's where we put our notices to the public if we're going to have an annual meeting or budget hearing, whatnot. Then we have to designate an official depository, which is our bank. So this is just an annual thing. We haven't changed this in my time here. Oh, actually, we did change. We used to work with a newspaper that was local that, what was the name of that, Sean?
Mukwonago Chief.
Mukwonago Chief, which is no longer a newspaper. So we changed it to the Waukesha Freeman, but we've banked with Citizens Bank for the entire history of this school district's forever, and we're their oldest customer. So the proposal is that we continue to designate Citizens Bank and the local government investment pool as our official depositories, and then that we designate the Waukesha Freeman as our official newspaper for the 23-24 school year.
Make that motion.
So we need separate motions on that, actually. So make one for the newspaper and one for the depository. John?
To go from committee to the full board, I think it's fine.
Fair
But
enough.
at the school board meeting, we would need separate.
Okay. You don't got the motion?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. Next thing that we had then was the district investment results. So I'm just bringing this to you. We have a school board policy that says I am to provide you with our investment results. So I'm bringing those to you as of March, which is the close of the 3rd quarter for the 22-23 school year. On the memo there, you can see our interest rates are in the mid-4s right now. So 4.69% was the rate of return for the month of March. I gave a couple documents or a couple exhibits. And when we started the year in July, our interest rate was 1% even, and now we're up to 4.69%. So interest rates are climbing up. It's just the environment of our economy. So while inflation is going up, our investment returns are also kicking up as well. So this is just for your information. You guys have any questions about it?
No.
All right. There we go. Next thing then is debt defeasance, so our prepayment of debt. We're looking to do this next month. I am presenting here tonight 2 options. I guess let me back up. Last year, we prepaid $5 million, and in that process, we reduced our debt timeline by a year. We reduced future interest costs by $1.4 million, and then we increased our state aid by $1.7 million. So it was win-win-win across the board. I'm attaching the option to do this again in May. I present a $5 and $6 million prepayment. We have the funds to do either. The $5 million prepayment would both would reduce our timeline from 2034 down to 2032, and we would we would reduce future interest costs by $1.1 million if we prepaid $5 million, and by $1.28 million if we prepaid $6. Do you guys have any questions about this as we move forward? I'll ultimately bring a final recommendation to the committee or to the committee of the whole, whatever the school board chooses to do with the committee structure. If we have the finance committee still next month, I would bring a final recommendation. But at this point, I know I will make one of these 2 recommendations more than likely. So are there any final questions, I guess, that I can work on now and bring answers back in May?
We were looking in the fall that we might be, maybe, like, with the projected budget, I think it was $900,000 in the red. That stuck out to me for some reason. Was that for next year or was that for this school year?
Our current budget is in the red, but we did that by design. We had a large fund balance from last year where we were like plus $2 million. And so we identified a number of one-time projects.
Yeah.
So structurally, we were balanced, but when we added on one-time projects that were going to use a prior year surplus, it appears to be negative, but it's balanced.
Okay.
These funds, they can obviously be used to repay debt. Is there?
We can't do anything else with this money.
Right.
We can't go buy textbooks or anything. So we levy these dollars. Now it's time to say, we're ready to pay off the debt, and the answer, I think, should be yeah.
Yeah.
What's the alternative?
You keep the money. You can still only use it for this cause. You're going to pay interest costs.
Yeah, I mean,
You're choosing not to pay off your debt early, so you're
For no
going to pay
apparent
the interest costs. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Okay.
So
we
this
can't
is
do
just a
anything else
last
with
call
it.
here. If there's questions,
I'm asking the question so everybody else.
sure, yeah, I got you.
Good question.
But yeah, that's the moral of the story is there's nothing else we can do with this, so why would we not do it, right?
Yep, that's exactly it. So you can see in those documents I gave, there's a couple of debt timelines, and you can see that, we're walking down that debt timeline. We'll be doing this again next year and shortening this timeline down. So I think it's the right thing to do, so I recommend it.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll bring back a final, we have to post this. There's just some legal steps, not a big deal, but we have to pass a resolution that's a little particular. And there's a kind of a checklist of things here on this document here that walks you through the things that we'll do, and we'll take care of all this. But I just want to kind of bring this back onto the radar, see if there's questions, and we'll move forward if not. All right.
Perfect.
Cool, thank you. All right, the next thing is our budget calendar for 23-24. I'm gonna hop up to the podium here for a second, and I am looking for you guys to take action on this because we haven't adopted a budget calendar yet. I just wanna make sure that the point of this is that we're just all on the same page. I don't wanna get to the point where we're in June and we're trying to adopt a budget and there's questions being asked, why didn't we think about this earlier, things of that nature. So in January, we did a preliminary review of the upcoming budget. In February, I worked behind the scenes to work with our department directors and principals to give them their preliminary allocations. Andy Wagner presented the budget for Buildings and Grounds in March. That was approved, so he can proceed with his summer work. We're going to look to approve our health insurance plan here next Monday, and we'll talk about where we're going with that in closed session tonight. Next May, we are going to present a little bit more information here about our salary and benefits budget. Obviously, health insurance is a huge component of benefits, so we'll have a deeper conversation about that. But really in May, I'm going to present what we'll use at the annual meeting. That's like the last call. I'm going to present a budget. You guys, I hope, will bless that, and then I can take that in July and present it to the community. We'll always aim to build a balanced budget, of course, and to do it the right way. So this is just to say, hey, let's all stay on the same page as we work through the annual meeting here in July. Once that comes and goes in September, we get our third Friday count, and then October comes and we'll adopt our final budget. So the annual meeting budget is really just a placeholder. We try to get as accurate as possible with it when we talk to the community, but obviously it's built on assumptions, and we're going to talk about budget assumptions, I think, next. So do you guys have any issues with this calendar? If not, I'd like just to adopt this as a full board, so we're saying, yep, this is our game plan. This is when we need to figure things out by. This is something we typically do every year, so.
I'd like to make a motion that we move this budget calendar forward to the full board for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I'm gonna go back up there. Next thing then is our budget assumptions. So this is guesswork. We went to the state capitol a couple weeks ago to lobby our representatives, and what they ultimately decide is where the answers to these questions are gonna come from. So All right, so I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna walk us through our budget assumptions. I initially shared, so there's an exhibit that I posted here. I presented this in January, and now I'm bringing it back in April, and what I have highlighted in red, and I'll make this a little bigger in a second, is what changed since then, from then till now. So just to highlight these assumptions, and ultimately I'm looking for an adoption of a budget because I can build it any way I like, and if the budget assumptions I make don't materialize, you know, you can say, Tom, we built a terrible budget. We got you thought we were gonna get a ton of money, we never got that money, and now we're scrambling in June to balance it. So I just wanna, again, keep us all on the same page here. What we're ultimately on our third Friday in September, and I'll make that just a bigger one more time, is that we are going to say that we are going to stay even at 46,015 students, so no change. All right. The utilization of independent charter schools, that's a levy we put onto our taxpayers. I would assume that independent charter schools with the new Mill Creek Academy will probably have some students or more students going there. So I'm growing that number by 10, and that changes our third Friday average to 4689. But the big assumption here really is that third Friday enrollment, let's assume it stays even, okay? We could build that to decline, we could build that to increase, but I'm just saying let's leave it flat. Our open enrollment counts, so these are FTE counts for open enroll regular education, open enroll in, open enroll out for regular ed, then we have special ed, open enroll in and out. So these are the counts we currently have. Again, same thing, we're saying no change. All right, and then we have our voucher students. We levy a tax onto our citizens for kids who attend private voucher schools, and that program, as you can see, has grown by about 20. So I'm gonna say we'll go up another 18, I should say it grows by about 18 is our average. So I've grown this by 18 at the K-8 level. I've grown it by 2 at the 9-12 level, and we've been pretty flat here with special ed vouchers. So really this increase here says that tax levy gets bigger. We take the money and we give it to these schools. We don't really do anything other than receive it and forward it on. But it would be, in terms of tax levy planning, that's a cost that's gonna go up because kids' participation in that will go up. The big change I'm saying here is that the per member revenue limit, I feel very confident we're gonna get $350 increase on a per pupil level from the state budget in year one, but I don't know that, right? That's the guess. I've walked this back to 275, and when I present the budget, the next agenda item, you'll see we have a balanced budget if we get $275 per pupil. So I'm saying let's not go all in on 350, let's walk it back. If we got $350 per pupil, then we would have a surplus of about $350,000. I'm just gonna skip ahead here for a second because one of the biggest assumptions here that we're changing is our health insurance increase. We think we can keep things flat, and you'll hear about that in executive session tonight. So that was at a 5% increase, and now if we just say, hey, it's gonna stay flat, that's a savings of about $300,000 to $350,000. Okay. Ultimately, I could get into this more. There's a lot of details in here, but I feel confident that if we build a budget with these values, that's about as best we can do. Because again, this is guesswork. We don't know where this is ultimately going to land. These values here, so when we talk about equalization aid, I'm saying that we're going to get $25.8 million. So when we calculate our revenue limit, which will be $47 million, how much of that will the state give us? I'm saying $25.8 million. It's a little bit less than last year. I think that's a conservative value. The bigger that number gets, as that number gets bigger, the tax levy gets smaller. But I don't want to get too aggressive in our assumptions here. But again, this is, again, guesswork. But I want to ultimately get these assumptions. I'll say it like this. In the month of May, I would like to adopt budget assumptions. I can answer questions between then and now, between now and then, if you guys have them. I ultimately feel comfortable that about what we have here. The last thing I'll just highlight is our overall tax levy. I don't have any concern that the tax levy will shrink. if somehow, some way, so when we add up all these various funds, this line right here represents our levy to pay debt, okay? So we have a prepayment amount that we are over levying here. We only need to levy about 3 million, but we can levy more, and then when we levy more, we pay off debt earlier, shrink interest costs, shorten the debt timeline. If our Fund 10 levy goes up or down, so I have a note here, if this value moves up, we simply move this value down. The point being, we are going to likely levy that exact dollar amount. We have enough leeway that the tax levy is going to shrink. So the trick is, I guess the issue is not creating a good tax levy that our citizens will be happy with. It's just making sure that we can balance the budget. I'm going to present that next. But if you're comfortable recommending to the board that these assumptions seem conservative yet realistic, we can adopt these tonight and I'll build a budget with this. Or we can wait till next month. We can take questions from the board on Monday. It's up to you guys. If you want to take time to go through it and kind of look at some questions, or say, Tom, can you give us, what does it look like if we lose 50 students? I can do that. And then we can adopt it next month. There's no rush really, but we want to adopt them no later than May so I can build it in June.
Do we have the numbers for next year yet for the kids that signed up? You sent the email out to parents to sign their kids up for like the following school year?
Oh, for 5K?
So
or-
the elementary principals
Yeah.
sent the intent to return.
And to return.
So, right, they have that, and then we use that to determine how many sections we'll have at each grade level, at the elementary level. And so typically, we take those numbers, and then that's what drives our ability to accept open enrollment.
Okay.
Open enrollment requests, applications, that closes at the end of April. And so first week of May is when we work on those numbers.
Okay. So we don't, is there any ballpark of where we're at yet, or they're for intent to return, or they're?
The vast majority of students are returning
Okay.
from, according to the principals.
Okay.
Down, there might be down a couple at a couple spots, but I haven't gotten an update yet. I will
Okay.
in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Do you guys want me to come back, like, I guess if there's any like budget scenarios you want me to bring back, I can do that, and then we can adopt a budget, a set of assumptions. So really the biggest ones to me in all this stuff we're talking about really is just what's our third Friday count gonna be? And how much money per student are we gonna get? Everything, I'm not gonna say the other stuff is trivial, but
We don't.
those are the biggest assumptions.
We
for
don't
sure.
know the revenue limit until October-ish, correct?
No, we'll know how much money per student once the biennial budget gets adopted. But once we know that per pupil amount, then we wait till the third Friday of September to say how many pupils do we have. So it's kind of a series of events that takes place. And again, at this point, we're just trying to guess what we're going to have. This is going to inform the annual meeting. So this is what we'll take. It's certain to change.
Yeah.
It's 100% going to change. But at this point, we just got to start somewhere. So we'll adjust this and the final budget goes down in October. But again, I feel good about these values, but I can come back and say, here's what the budget looks like if we lose 50 or gain 50 students. And then we can adopt from there.
Why are you confident we're gonna get more money?
When we saw our legislators last month, there was a panel led by Dewey Strobel and Cedarburg. John, who are the other folks there on that? Chris Larson from Milwaukee.
So there were 4, and then Christine out of Green Bay, Sawicki. I'm not saying her last name correctly.
It was 2 Republicans
and
and 2
the gentleman
Democrats.
out of Sister Bay, Door County, or Sturgeon Bay, maybe.
And
But they, I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
They said that ultimately the takeaway I got from that was they were going to do something for education. They weren't going to freeze us again. The constant message that's really been given, kind of in a unified message from all school districts, we need $350 here. Thanks, man. We need at least $350. Nobody's really been asking for less than that. There was 300 and some odd, $330 million in last year's budget that they ultimately sat on, and that money is still available. I do think they will use that to increase the per pupil amount and the investment that they put into general aid. So as the amount of money goes up, they'll offset the tax impact to say, school districts, here's more aid for all of you to help keep your tax levies under control. So under Republican leadership, obviously that's important to keep taxes, very flat, if not decreasing. But I think we're getting to a point in time when after 6 out of the last 8 years have been no increase, I think at this point in time, there is a common understanding that we have to do something for schools at this point. And that's been said by Republican leadership, so that's why I think we're gonna get money.
Well.
We'll see, though. Okay. That's back. All right. So what, I guess, for assumptions and budget building purposes, are there other things you'd like to see? Do you want me to bring back some other per pupil revenue limit increases or other scenarios of increasing or decreasing enrollment?
How many did we lose last year? Or this year?
40.
Show you right. We got that math here. So we went, I think, we went from 4659 down to 4615. So we lost 44.
Yeah, I would do somewhere in that range.
Okay.
See if we are on a steady decline.
Okay.
Worth noting.
Sure. All right. I'll build the scenario with minus 50, just round that up a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll build one plus 50 just to show what, if that goes the other way. We'll have to choose one of those then. We'll have to choose a dollar amount. Okay?
All right.
Does that work?
Yes.
I don't know if plus 50, if we went down last year, I don't know if it's worth, I would say like a minus 50, a minus 25, and then neutral would make most sense.
Okay.
To be most conservative for it. I don't know
Sure.
if do you think adding 50 would be,
I hope so.
well, I hope so too, but I'm just, with Mill Creek opening right next door,
Yeah, no, that's fair.
St. Joe's,
I think the biggest driver is the cost of housing is high, interest rates are high, so buying a house is not super affordable right now. That's just my guess. Okay. I'll bring those back and then we'll try to adopt. Are there other dollar values you want me to build other than plus 350 or plus 275?
I like those two. I think that's
Okay.
pretty conservative.
You want me to bring back one smaller just to show it, if we only get this, here's where we're going to be?
What was the last one we got?
Like most recently, it was a plus 0.
I mean,
It was like 250,
they actually
yeah.
gave something.
Yeah, it was about $200. Plus 179, I want to say.
I think if we're gonna do another one, $200 seems like a.
Okay.
Not that I want to be right, but
Yeah, no, let's be informed though. Let's be ready. Okay, I'll do that. All right, thank you. All right, so just moving forward then, Sean, I'm going to switch with you in case this taps out. I'll present an updated budget real quickly here for next school year. So I built this budget with 0 enrollment increase, so that third Friday stays flat, $275 per student increase. Bear with me for a second here. All right. All right, here we go. So we did this again in January. I'm bringing this back now. Let me make this bigger for those at home or in the crowd here. So I'm showing what we changed. Again, this is built with no increase in third Friday membership counts, no change to open enroll in or out, plus 275 on the per pupil revenue limit. In January, we are at plus 350. In addition to that per pupil revenue limit, we also get $742 in what's known as per pupil categorical aid. We're leaving that flat, so no increase there. A 5% increase in special education reimbursements Again, I think that's conservative and reasonable, because that's, of the ask that school districts have made, that's been a universal, very repetitive ask that special ed costs are up. We need help with that. And it seems that those we are talking to, they are receptive to that message. I changed our health insurance, as I said earlier, from 5% to 0. More information on that in closed session. So again, before I get to the exhibit, the tax levy is not a concern at this time. We are positioned to decrease our Fund 39 over levy to any level we need to ensure that the overall levy will go down. The concern is making a balanced budget. Will we be provided with enough money or have enough students to produce the revenues that we'd like to work with? Okay, but based on those assumptions right now, let me just shrink this down for a second. So this is last year, this is our current school year, and this is our what we're working towards next year, this budget year, 23-24. So again, you're looking at based on those assumptions here, we will have a $0 surplus, meaning we're not in the red. We have a small deficit that we built this year, and Carolyn, I think you were asking about this earlier.
Yeah.
You can see like the surplus we left behind the prior year. We said, hey, let's use some of those funds. So we built a deficit budget intentionally, okay? Had we not entertained those one-time costs, the cameras for the school bus is one example where we said, hey, we got surplus, how can we use it? That was an example for $60,000. We also did the stipends for the teachers, which was the bulk of the one-time spending. But we are essentially balanced for the current school year, even though it doesn't appear that way. For next year, as we build this budget with 4% salary increases, 0% on the health insurance, no student increase, $275 increase on the per pupil amount, we are balanced. You can see, if I just zoom out here, the tax levy here, you'll see this line right here going across into the future years, down 0.2%, down 0.2%, keeps going down, and then it drops off a shelf because our debts will be paid off by at least that point in time. The mill rate again is at 653, it'll drop to 620, 607, keeps going down, okay? So we are, again, if we take a look at the 5-year forecast then, we're at a balanced budget next year. We have a small surplus the following year. These future years are assuming that we would grow by $250 each of those years as well. I don't want to think about the next biennial budget after this coming one or the one after that, like one step at a time here. Let's just focus on the next 2 years. So we're really looking at 23, 24, 24, 25. Don't put any weight on those other years. If there was problems, we'd have time to correct them. So I'm not showing problems here, but the here and the now is next year. I think we look good. I think we're in a good spot. If we are provided more funding, we could have a different conversation about compensation increases. We can have any conversation you want, as a matter of fact, but we won't really be able to have that conversation until we come October, November, once we know the final counts, the final dollar values, and all that other stuff. But I feel I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll be fine. I don't have any reason to say I'm concerned, you guys. Okay?
In the memo above, you had 3% in transportation. Does that account for what Dousman is requesting for us?
So actually, I think I needed to update that. I did update that to show some of Dousman's requests beyond 3%. So we will tackle that next month. I think we got to make a strategy. Maybe we're not able to give them what their ask is. Their ask was rather large. I can't even remember, 11. But maybe we can say, hey, we'll do a certain percentage now, and if the state budget shakes out better, we'll come back and talk to you. But I feel I don't want to, without knowing how much money we have, I want to give them some peace of mind to say there will be an increase. Let's start with a first step, and if we are in a position that we can help more, we will, but we can't go right to 11% right now without knowing all these things. That's a huge jump. I think we want to be good partners because I don't want to run them into the ground, financially speaking. We're their only customer. It's a unique relationship. It's a unique business relationship. It's not like they're just going to move their fleet of buses and go to some other district. You know, we're in a working relationship where we want to be fair to the taxpayer, but we also need to be fair so that they have the hourly rates so they can hire drivers, they can afford their insurance, their replacement parts, so on and so forth.
Dousman Transport doesn't serve the Dousman area?
No, they do. But it's, I'd say changing transportation vendors is a long, so we have a 4-year or 5-year rolling contract. It's difficult for any transportation vendor to just come up with 40 buses, come into the market, find 40 drivers.
No, you said that we are their only customer.
Let me take that back. The Mukwonago terminal, before they were Dousman Transport, they were Hanks. Hanks has been our transportation provider, I want to say, since 1946. So it's a lot of Hanks employees and former Hanks buses. In that sense, we were their only customer.
That seems more clear.
All right, sorry yeah, that was misleading. I didn't mean to do that. Any questions about the budget? I think the goal here is, and I'm not even sure I have to ask this, but I'll just state the obvious out loud. We're building a balanced budget for the annual meeting. We're not going to come, unless there's some one-time projects where we say, hey, let's put cameras on the rest of the buses. If we identify needs for using surplus funds, then we can say, all right, we're operationally balanced, but we'll use one-time extra funds from previous good years to do whatever initiatives we have. But absent that conversation, we're going to go balanced. Correct? That's the game plan? All right, that's what we'll do.
Cool.
All right. So that's your budget update there. All right, the next thing that we had our buildings and grounds report, so Andy's going to come just give us a couple updates, and then we'll go to an executive session.
Am I on? Yeah, I am on. All right. Just real quick, add 3 things here for you. We did an indoor air quality assessment of Parkview and Clarendon and then retest at Big Bend. That was off of a concerned parent. And same as the process that we did at Big Bend the first time, brought in EMC, our insurance company. They had a hygienist come out and do multiple assessments of each building. Clear to say, or I'm happy to say to you that we had no levels found that were abnormal, or really any mold found in the building, should I say. So we're been given a good bill of health in that capacity. And I continue to monitor our indoor, outdoor air quality with the programs that we use to run our HVAC. So currently with the outdoor environment right now and the temperatures, we monitor what our minimum set points are at. So we're currently at a 15% minimum outside air coming into our buildings. And we will be switching to air conditioning very shortly here with the warmer temps coming. Okay. I wanted to just give you an update with B&G as a whole, as a department. We were doing really well here a couple months ago. And in this last month, we kind of took a hit with some people that are looking to either early retire, move up north, leave, and we've had a couple unfortunate circumstances where we've had to let a few people go. So currently I'm sitting with 2 full-time positions open and 6 part-time positions open. We advertise through Indeed mainly. There isn't a good avenue through a local paper. We are advertising through the high school with the message boards as well as emails through Key News and such. And as I'm sure most of you know, the market is kind of saturated and employees coming in. We did have a great day last week where we had 3 interviews scheduled and all 3 people showed up. And we were able to possibly grab 2 of the 3 people to hire. But we are still at a short. So I just wanted to make you aware that we do our best to keep the schools clean and safe at the same time. So we do have subs that we bring in at times to help out where we're short, as well as we may have to modify our cleaning schedules, and we communicate that with the staff so that they know that we are short at a day, so that they're aware of it. We've also gone further with certain schools in, and I'll be helping out Parkview next week. I didn't have this in my report, but they're doing a cleaning contest with their students during the lunchtime. And so we'll be actually going through and grading classrooms. So it was kind of a neat thing that they're putting together to try and get kids as well as staff to be involved in helping.
What school's doing that, Andy?
Parkview.
Can you have Section Elementary do that?
Yeah,
My
I'll
kids could
be
use
right
that.
on it. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you is, I didn't know if any of you were familiar to know that we had a safety committee here at the district. And that's something that I head up under Tom's direction. So 3 times a year, we have a meeting, and as staff members throughout the district, they can volunteer to be on this. We try to get 1 person from each building to be involved in this, as well as I invite local law enforcement, fire department, our insurance company comes to this, and we talk about an array of different things in the district. We also take from this messages that we can share to our employees in the district to make sure that they're following safe practices. We talk about injuries that we've had within the year, and then again, we just disseminate all that information back out to the district. So I was feeling like that was something you as board members may not know that we had in place, and wanted to make sure you knew that. So,
Awesome.
any questions?
No.
Thanks.
All right, the last thing that we had then is our health insurance conversation. So we'll go to closed session for that, since it's a competitive bid and we need to talk about some things in-house here.
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
I think we need a roll call, don't
Vito,
we? Here.
Carolyn, here.
Yes.
Yes.
All right,
Look at that. I knew something.
nice job. All right.